Some of you have not muted. Kindly mute. Good morning, everybody. I welcome you all for this heritage series of lectures. It's almost 1.5 months since we had this lecture. We had it in the beginning of the August, and I was so tied up with so many commitments, so I could not do it in the beginning of the September. So I thought we should not miss September. We should not miss August, and that's why we are having this particular presentation today. It's a very brief, small presentation, and this is about the untold story and the beauty of Kalzhugumalai. When you say Kalzhugumalai, people would have heard of that name somewhere. It would be ringing behind your mind. Somewhere I've heard this word, Kalzhugumalai. Some of you would have visited this temple also. And those of you who have visited, many of you would have gone to the beautiful temple of Muruga, which is dedicated there as Kalugachala Murti. Hardly anybody comes to this wonderful rock cut excavation, which is an unfinished temple that you see in Kalzhugumalai. This is something which is par excellence, an architectural specimen for the Indian architecture. A whole temple that is scooped out of a live rock. Last presentation, we saw the Kailash, which was scooped out of a live rock, which is a volcanic rock, which is very easy to scoop out and it's very easy to make the carvings. This particular Kalzhugumalai is totally different. Hello, can I request you to kindly mute, please? This Kalzhugumalai is a total granite structure. It's scooped out of a granite rock block. And that's what, it's a beautiful temple. And that's what we are going to see here. With this small introduction, I welcome you all again into this beautiful presentation of the Kalzhugumalai. This Kalzhugumalai temple is known as Vettuvan Koil. And this temple is situated in the district of Tamil Nadu. May I kindly request you all to mute, please? It is disturbing very badly. All the viewers, can I request you to kindly mute? This particular rock cut excavation was excavated by the Pandya kings. And this is an unfinished rock cut excavation. There are other aspects to this Kalzhugumalai, which is also there. You have Jain caves from dating back to 8th century onwards there on the upper regions of this Kalzhugumalai. This is a beautiful granite stone excavation, very similar like that of the Mahabalipuram Rathas. When you see the Mahabalipuram Rathas, you have the Pancha Rathas, which are excavated from a stone hillock. And the excavated portion is there as the Ratha, and the other portions are being sent out elsewhere. So you have the Ratha alone, but here it is just like a piece of cake and a small portion of the cake has been just cut out. This entire Kalzhugumalai is cut out from a live granite hillock. And that's the beauty of this Kalzhugumalai. It is believed this monument was built in the 8th century by the Pandyas by called Maran Chadayan. This is a monolithic rock cut excavation. And this is a very beautiful rock cut excavation that you could see here. And now this is the a view of this Kalzhugumalai. This is a hillock and that's a village right in front of it. So the entire rock, the hillock is being totally excavated, and this temple is just coming out of it. It's like a piece of cake that has been just scooped out or cut out and taken. Such a beautiful view of the Kalzhugumalai with the village right in front of it. This is known as Vettuvan Koil. Why it is known as Vettuvan Koil is because இது in Tamil you say மலையிலிருந்து வெட்டி எடுக்கப்பட்ட கோயில். That's why it gets the name Vettuvan Koil. This is a complete monolithic temple by itself. And it's got typical sculptures as recommended in the Dravidian style of architecture, which consists of a Garbhagraha and an Ardhamantapa also. Unfortunately, those portions are left unfinished. So this is a beautiful rock cut excavation in totality. Parantakan Nedunchadan created this monument on the ridge of the mountain, and there are plenty of Vattalati inscriptions which say this as Samanar Palli, which was formed there. Right above this temple, on the hillock, there was a Samanar Palli, and the plenty of inscriptions are there seen in the Samanar Palli even today. And that throws a lot of light into the religious aspect of the Tamil Nadu in the earlier days. So where Jainism was at its peak, especially in the Pandya region, Jainism was ruling. You all know about the story of the Pandyan king, who was a total Jain, and his wife Mangayarkarasi brought in Jnanasambandar to bring back Saivism into in the Pandya region. So this Pandya region was full of Jain culture. So this Jainism has got a very important place in Kalzhugumalai, and it has got the maximum number of inscriptions that is anywhere found in any of the Jain sculptures here. As per the local legend, the rivalry between the father and son, who are sculptors, as to who would attain the better specimen, led to this temple being abandoned. As the story goes like this, the son started working on the lower regions of the rock cut temple, and on the other side of the hillock, he was excavating Murugan shrine. And the father started the work to excavate this beautiful architectural piece of Vettuvan Koil. The son claimed that the father can never complete or never finish the shrine. And this particular claimant of the son infuriated the father, and the father killed the son. So since the father killed or Vettinan, it became as Vettuvan Koil. This is a legendary story which has got nothing, no facts to substantiate it. Another variant of legend states that the father wanted the son to take time to learn the tricks and start the work. So, foregoing these orders of the father that he has to learn completely and then only start the work, the son started working in the lower regions of the temple. When the father used to strike, he also used to strike. So that symmetry was maintained. Somehow there was a small mishap, and then this sound started coming out. The father saw that, and he was outraged by the son's disobedience of not accepting his command. The father killed the son. So that became the Vettuvan Koil. All said and done, this temple is known as Vettuvan Koil in Tamil because Vettuvan means Vetti Edukkapatta, or the scooped out portion, Vetti Edukkapatta Koil. That's why it gets the name Vettuvan Koil. All these legendary stories are immaterial. Now, when you come to this particular thing, you climb up a small hill, and from behind you climb up and come. As you climb up and see this is the hillock, and that's the terrain that you see behind also. This is a topographical view of the beautiful place of Kalzhugumalai. And what is compounded there is inside that is this Vettuvan Koil. And now the compound has come so that people do not slip and fall inside. So the compound is made by the archaeological department of India, South Tamil Nadu, and this is maintained as a monument under the Tamil Nadu Archaeological Department. So it's a very, very beautiful temple, and this is the aerial view of this particular temple that you see here. Now, these are the steps which are carved out of the live rock that leads you to the top of the temple. And there, when you go there, this is the first vision that you can get of the temple. Look at the beautiful vision of the temple. The entire temple structure is scooped out of the live rock and the village that is there in right in front. Everything you can see it there. And this is again another view of the same temple, how it has been scooped out of a live rock. And one side you have the village, another side the hillock continues. So this is again the third view of this temple from the southern side. You see that on the northern aspect of it, you have again the hillock continuing with boulders and everything. You can see that. And the entire temple is scooped out of this particular live rock. The temple is carved at a singular rock, cutting in a rectangular shape, and it's almost, they scooped out almost about 25 feet in depth. That's what they have scooped now. If they had to originally complete this entire temple, they should have gone almost 50 to 60 feet down below. But 25 feet of it has been scooped out totally. And the shikara and the two talas that you see, the two tiers of the temple are completely finished. And the lower portion of the temple is totally left unfinished or rough finished. The Shikara portion is very, very beautifully finished with designs. And then after the Shikara, you have the Griva. The Griva is the neck portion, and that has got the beautiful representation of Shiva and other deities in many different forms. And the majestic bulls that are there on the four cardinal directions are also imposing structures of this particular temple. The lower layer have the lower portions of it, the second tier. You have beautiful representation of different types of gods and goddesses, ganas, both ganas, and different types of animals and other things, yali and so on. It's an amazing work of architecture that we could see here. Now, this is the beautiful shikara of the temple. Look at the beautiful shikara. It's scooped out from the live rock. The stupi is missing. Probably they would have made the hole to keep a metallic stupi there, made of gold or brass or bronze. And that particular portion is just empty. And you can see the beautiful stupi spreading out with the open lotus representation with a beautiful chain of architectural designs running all around in the 8 cardinal directions. And this is an 8-faced stupi which comes into a circular form. And on the 8 faces, you have 8 different kudus, and very, very artistically and very beautifully being done and executed. Look at that stupi. The lotus opens up. Below that, you have something like a necklace going around the neck. So beautifully, intricately designed. And from there, you have the strings of pearls which are hanging. The strings of pearls are so beautifully done. And the end of the string of pearls, you have beautiful floral representations. The flowers hanging, giving it a very, very beautiful, what you call, a representation that is something phenomenal. You don't see that sort of a representation in stupi in many of the places. This is one of the outstanding shikaras that you can see there in this Dravidian architecture. And it has got the 8 kudus on the 8 cardinal directions. And these kudus are also so intricately carved with a lot of floral motifs and designs, which is of amazing beauty. Look at that. Look at that beautiful floral designs. Look at the kudus. Every kudu is so beautifully and intricately designed and so very well represented. And the first thing when you come on to the south side, on the kudu, you have a beautiful representation of Shiva as Dakshinamurti. When you go to any temple, Shiva temple, you will find the Dakshinamurti image on the south, which is a clear indication that this is a temple dedicated to Shiva. And normally Dakshinamurti is seen seated under the banyan tree, giving his Jnanopadesa to the Sishyas down below. But here, this Dakshinamurti is not like that. It's totally different. He's seen playing a mridangam. Mridangam is a vadyam. Dakshinamurti is said to be conveying knowledge through his silence. Whereas here, playing a mridangam brings in sound. The sound is also a form of exposition of knowledge. That's what has been shown here. And this is the one and the only unique representation of Dakshinamurti seen playing mridangam. May I kindly request you all to mute, please. Again, I'm requesting you. It is disturbing me very badly. Some of you have not muted. Please mute it. Look at that beautiful Dakshinamurti. Seen there, sitting with one leg folded, holding this mridangam in his lap and playing on the mridangam. It's an amazing representation. None of the Indian temples have this sort of a representation. This is the one and the only representation which is shown where Dakshinamurti is seen playing mridangam. And look at that beautiful, realistic Nandi, Rishabha, on the four corners of the. May I kindly request you to please mute. I don't know who it is. It's terribly disturbing me. With the earphones on, I'm not able to proceed with the lecture. Gentlemen.
Asha Gupta, you need to mute. Asha Gupta, yeah, thanks.
Down below the Dakshinamurti, you have fantastic representation of the Yalivari. The Yalivari in Chola temples are half Yalis, or only 3/4 Yalis is shown. Here, the Yalis are seen in standing position, which is totally different from the Chola architecture. You have plenty of Yalis and the Yali riders also on that. Look at the beautiful versions of Yali. You have Gajayali, you have Simbayali, and so many other forms of Yalis also there. And on the western side, normally all the Dravidian temples of the earlier years, western side, now you find Lingodbhava. Again, somebody is on. Oof. I'm not going to proceed with this lecture unless you all mute yourself.
Shailen's mother, Bansali auntie, to please mute. Shailen Bansali's mother, Sneha auntie, to please mute. Bhavani Natarajan, to please mute. Bhavani, to please mute.
Yes. I don't know. I leave.
That's from Bhavani's phone.
Yes, I don't know how to mute it. And mute பண்ணுங்க mute பண்ண மாட்டேன் பண்ண முடியல எப்படி mute பண்ணுவேன்
Yeah, done. Okay.
Can I proceed? Yeah.
Yes.
Normally, all the Dravidian temples of the earlier years used to have the beautiful image of Mahavishnu, which is on the rear costa of the temple. Now, today, most of the temples do have Lingodbhava representation. Here you have Mahavishnu representation here on the western side, on the top Shikara. This is a representation of Narsimha avatar of Mahavishnu, which is very beautifully seen here. You see this Narsimha avatar. Wherever you see Narsimha avatar sculpture, he is seen as Yoga Narsimha, or he is seen as Lakshmi Narsimha, or something like that, where he sits in the yogic pose like Ayyappa. But here, this Narsimha is seated in the Vajrasana. Vajrasana, seated in the Virasana, very, very casually, holding the chakra and the shankhu. Just see this Shankha. The chakra is a Prayoga chakra in his hand, and the Shankha is kept upside down, which is again a very, very unique representation. And the Narsimha is seen with the Tarjani Mudra, which is again a very unique form. Normally he is seen in Abhaya Mudra, but here he is seen with the Tarjani Mudra holding his index finger like that, saying that something, giving us a warning signal, giving a warning signal. So this is also a very, very beautiful and a very rare representation of this wonderful form of Narsimha. Look at that Narsimha very beautifully. He is holding the Shankha upside down. The chakra is in Prayoga with the Tarjani Mudra and one hand on the lap. Of course, it's broken, but then look at that smiling face of Narsimha. It is not a Ugra Narsimha. It is just a Shanta Narsimha, but a different posture, which is normally not seen in many of the temples. And on the northern side, you have Brahma, which is represented on the top Shikara. Brahma with his four heads and the four arms in a very beautiful seated position on top of a lotus is seen here very beautifully. Look at that Brahma. He's got the Kamandala and Rudraksh, Spatikamala. He's got the Pustaka, and he's seen seated in the meditation on top of a lotus flower. A very beautiful representation of Brahma. And coming to the main entrance, right on the top of the eastern side, you have this Uma Maheshwara or Uma Sahita. And this Uma Sahita is totally different from many of the sculptures that you see in the temples. Look at that. If you closely observe it, Shiva is seated in Padmasana, Parvati is seated close to him, and Shiva is giving some lecture or sermon or giving some upadesa to Parvati. Parvati is clearly absorbing that. Look at that way where, of course, the Chinmudra in Shiva's hand is broken. But then you can see that Shiva is trying to convey something to Parvati, and Parvati is very clearly listening to it. This is an Upadesha Shiva with Parvati, something, a phenomenal sculpture which you don't see it anywhere. It's something very, very unique to this particular temple of Vetuvan Koil. And now we see this temple right below this particular first tier, Shikara, and on the Griva, you have the 3 or 4 sculptures, the Nandis, and below that, you have a beautiful Yalivari. The Yalivari decoration is so wonderful, and then comes to the second tier. The second tier opens up so beautifully with artistic floral designs all around, and below that, you have the Bhutas and the Salas. Amazing work of architecture. Look at the Bhutas. They are all shown in such beautiful manner, in a very playful manner. That shows the entire temple is musical. You can see the Bhutas playing, dancing, one playing the flute here, other playing the cymbals there. So all these Bhutas are so beautifully represented here. Look at these Bhutas. You have a monkey face Bhuta also. And on the corners, you have again the beautiful representation of some apsaras. And in the kudus, in between, you have the apsaras being represented. Something very unique and not seen in many of the temples. Look at that. One Bhuta is playing with a snake. The other Bhuta is playing something, a drum instrument, like something with the leather tied on the top of a pot, and he's playing. Another one is playing something like a string instrument and things like that. So that's musical, that's playful, and the place gives you a different sort of a peace and a place that you come and enjoy. The temple is a place you come and enjoy. The Bhutas bring in that sort of a emotion to that temple structure. Look at the way the Bhutas are represented. The corner is with an apsara. You have again an apsara in the kudu and the face of an apsara on the top. Something phenomenal. Look at the beautiful, intricate designs here made, and here also the floral designs. If you see these floral designs very closely, these floral designs are very unique, and these floral designs are copied in many of the temples that you see in Cambodia. Very similar floral designs are also repeated there. I wouldn't say it is copied, or it may be the influence of this particular thing which is reflected there in Cambodia also. And coming to the second stature, the second level, the first thing on the Sala element, that's the center element, you find Shiva seated. I don't know whether it is Dakshinamurti or just plain Shiva seated here. The Shiva is seated very beautifully. We do not know what he's trying to convey, whether it was a Chinmudra or Abhay Mudra, whatever it is. So we are not able to correctly fix it to be a Dakshinamurti. But since this is the southern side, we think it should be a Dakshinamurti image. And here, you can see that Dakshinamurti image is different. Normally, the Mriha is held in the left side and the Mallu comes to the right side. But here it is totally interchanged, and Shiva is sitting in such a, the torso of the body is so different that he's put the entire weight on his hand, and that hand is resting on his thigh. This is something very unique, very, very unique and very beautifully represented. And on either sides of the Shiva, you have the Ganas, the beautiful Ganas there. Now, let's have a close look at this Shiva image. Look at this close look of the Shiva image. Look at the facial features. The face of the Shiva is rounded. The body itself is slightly stouted. Unlike the Pallava or the Chola sculptures, this is totally different. The facial features are not at all Dravidian in nature. None of the Dravidian temples do have these facial features. The puffed up eyes, puffed up cheeks, and look at the round face, the rounded face. And it's all got a very, very close resemblance to what you see in the Mathura art, which is again an influence of the Gandhara art. This is something different. All these sculptures in this level or in Kalzhugumalai have got these sort of features. I know it throws open to a lot of debate whether this was executed by somebody from some other region of India, that is, who was influenced in this Mathura art and things like that, and he has done this Dravidian style of temple, or whether these sculptors have got influenced by that and did it. It's a lot of space that opens up for debates. But the facial features of this particular sculptures that you see in Kalzhugumalai are entirely different from the regular Dravidian style of sculptural representations that you see in many of the temples. This is a unique feature that you have to note about the Kalzhugumalai sculptures. Look at that beautiful Bhutaganas on either side. And one side you have Indra, or it should be Kumara, we do not know. since all the Ayudas are missing. And the other side, you have Uma. So Shiva is, they are seated in the two extremes of this Shala element, and that's the Uma. Look at that Uma's face also. It's absolutely different. You have, I mean, through my presentation, you would have seen so many sculptures. You would have seen how the Dravidian style of architecture used to be. And look at these facial features. It's totally different. Just a rounded face with puffed up eyes and cheeks. It's something totally different. It doesn't have that regular features of the Dravidian style of architecture. And now coming to the western side, right below the Narasimha, you have the Vishnu, Vaikunthanatha, Vishnu seated here. Look at the beautiful Vishnu seated there on the Simhasana. Look at that. Look at that Sala, how beautifully they have decorated the Sala with two Gandharvas coming out of the floral decorations. And look at the Kudu, very intricately done. And down below that, Mahavishnu is seated with one leg folded up and he's seated there very beautifully with Prayoga Chakra and the Shankha. Look at the Shankha. He's holding it in the right form, not upside down as what we saw in Narasimha sculpture. He's holding it in the right form. The Chakra is in Prayoga form, which shows that it's an early dated sculpture before 10th century. And look at the drapery of Mahavishnu's dress. Amazing. The intricacy in the jewelry of what Mahavishnu is adorned with, something phenomenal aspect. And that is amazing. Look at that Mahavishnu. Look at the facial features also, which is what I again and again repeated. It's got a difference. Look at the way he's seated with the Prayoga Chakra and Shankha, and look at the intricate designs of jewelry that he's got and amazing features of this Mahavishnu. On one side, you have Chandra for the Mahavishnu and Surya on the other side. The Chandra is seen in full. We say it is Chandra because of the halo there, and that side, it should be Surya. The Surya face is defaced totally, but still you can see, make it out, it's a Surya because of the halo around there. And Mahavishnu is flanked with Chandra and Surya on either side. And this side, below the Brahma, you have again a seated Shiva. Look at that seated Shiva in the Sala element. Look at the way the Shiva is seated. Here, the antelope has come to the left side and the Maru goes to the right side. So this Shiva is totally again different. I don't know why they made these sculptures like this. In different levels, it is changed. I don't know what upper level, it is all interchanged, and lower level, it is all in the regular format. So this also is something, a phenomenal Shiva representation. Look at the way he's holding his dhoti in his hand, the drapery, so beautifully represented in the sculptural aspect. And as usual, the ornamentation is phenomenal in these sculptures. And this side of Shiva, you have Subramanya, the Skanda, with 4 arms, the 2 Vallavatus is there. He's the Senadipati. Senadipati has the 2 Vallavatus, it's what we say. And that 2 Vallavatu shows very clearly this is Subramanya. He has got the Shakti Ayudham in his one hand and Japamala in the other hand, and he's seated here. Subramanya is flanking on one side of this Shiva, seated Shiva there. And on the other side, look at that beautiful Subramanya. Can you make out the beautiful Vallavatu he is wearing it? And look at that Shakti Ayudham and the Japamala. It reminds of the Subramanya at Tiruchendur, which is close by, where he has the Rudraksha Mala in his hand. So this has got some connections. And this side you have Uma Parvati. She is seated very elegantly and beautifully. Look at the way she's seated in the separate kudu there. That's the beautiful, elegant Uma Parvati. And just on the Mahamandapam extension, they have carved out all the wonderful Bhutavaris. Unfortunately, the rock below is left unfinished. They've scooped out to make the Mahamandapam. They have abandoned it. Look at the detailing of the Bhutas that they have done. It's amazing to know with such details that they could do the Bhutas, because they are insignificant part of the temple. Normally, much concentrations are not given to this particular aspect in many of the temples, but here they are given the importance, and all the Bhutas are done so elegantly and so beautifully. Look at this Bhuta playing with the snake. Another Bhuta there. And again, this fellow is trying to take the snake and put it into the pot, or he's playing a mridanga, a percussion instrument. We do not know what it is. But then, amazing representations of the Bhutas. Look at that. Look at the facial features. It's totally different. By the looks of it, anybody can make out these facial features are not Dravidian. And now we come to the front portion of this temple. When you walk down and come down, this is the frontal portion of the temple, which is left unfinished. They have just scooped out the entire thing, and they should have finished. They should have taken time to finish it, but left unfinished. This is the rock all around, and this particular temple is scooped out. Probably the Garbhagriha entrance is made, and it is empty inside. They have placed a Ganesha idol now, but then it's empty inside. Look at this other side of this. This is what we come through. We go through this temple, Prakara, and that is almost about 10 feet down below. You have to come down. That's the second tala. You can see that. And from there, you come down. This is the Mahamantapa, and that goes into the Garbhagriha of the temple, which is left unfinished. They made provisions for it. They wanted to finish it, but they abandoned it. Why did they abandon this particular temple? Why? What was the reason for abandoning this beautiful temple? A lot of people have given different stories. The father killed the son, and so on and so forth. It is not true. The reason for abandoning this temple was started with the good intention of completing it as a monolithic structure. But when they came down below and they excavated the Garbhagriha and things like that, they found a cleft emerging. So there was a crack in the rock. If they had to do it, the rock will break into pieces and they will never be able to complete this temple. There's a small crack, cleft in the rock, which they identified after scooping so much of intricate aspects into that. When they went inside, they found out that crack. If they had to finish this temple, it will break into pieces. So they abandoned it. And all these stories of father killing the son, son killing the father, all these things are imaginary, which is attached to this temple. The reason for abandoning this beautiful masterpiece of architecture was a natural phenomenon which they could not identify till they came to that particular spot. They saw a beautiful crack, and that crack will anytime emerge, and when it gets exposed to heat and rain, it will further deteriorate and the entire structure can collapse at any time. So they left it like that and they abandoned this beautiful temple. And that is the Vetuvan Koil. Now we go up below above this Vetuvan Koil, leading through the steps to the higher region of this hillock, and that's where you find the Jain caves. Kalzhugumalai is one of the oldest Jain settlements in South India from 8th century. Jainism thrived here in this region till about 14th century. And this particular Jain sect which was here in this temple of Kalzhugumalai was known as Dihambara sect of Jainism, which is they are all naked people who will never wear dress, and they are the strict followers of Jainism principles. The upper portion of the hill is dedicated to Jain religious rock cut architecture, believed to have been built by the Pandyan king Parantaka Nedunaria in 768 to 800 CE. And these are all the sculptures that you see there on the relief sculpture. It's approximately got 150 niches of which depict different types of Jain Tirthankaras like Pashwanath, Mahavira, Neminath, and so on, so far. So this got also the maximum number of inscriptions. There are about 90 and odd inscriptions that are seen here in this particular thing. Look at that. These are the way the Jain sculptures are being excavated from 8th century onwards in this part of the Kalzhugumalai. It's just about 100 meters from this temple. You'll have to climb up to 100 meters and go there. There are 98 inscriptions of Jainism in Kalzhugumalai. There are Jain beds where the Jain monks used to live. The largest known concentration of Jain inscriptions as far as South India is concerned is found only in Kalzhugumalai, in the single site of Kalzhugumalai. And all these inscriptions are found below the sculptures of the Jain Tirthankaras, Yakshis, and things like that. And most of these inscriptions that you see here talk about the grants made by philanthropists and how this temple, the Jainism was promoted here. It talks about the Jain monks, men and women, all who had existed from 8th century till the 14th century there. Look at that rock face, full of Jain sculptures. You have a centerpiece of Mahavira and all the Tirthankaras everywhere. 158 such sculptures are seen there. Look at that Mahavira with the beautiful arch behind them, the 3 umbrellas above him, and all the Gandharvas there, and Akshis, everything is seen there, with so many other Tirthankaras and the Devi Amba also there. This is Ambika, one of the most important deity of the Jainism, and she is much like our Durga Devi. She's seen with the Simhavahana and so many other attendants to her. She looks very beautiful, Ambika of the Jain culture. And this is the Bahubali of the Jain sculpture. You can make out easily this is Bahubali because of the creeper that goes around his legs. And these are the 2 Yakshis of Bahubali, which is seen here. And these are again some of the Jain sculptures that you see in the inner portion where the Jain beds are located. Right above the Jain beds, you have these beautiful sculptures of Jainism there. And now we come to the western portion of this hill, where you have the Kalgachala Murti temple. There was a rock cut excavation in the rock in this side, and that was probably a Jain rock cut excavation, which was later converted into a Murugan temple, and that Murti of Subramanya Swami was done there, Pradishta was done there, and that Subramanya Swami came to be known as Kalgachala Murti. So this is the entrance to the Kalgachala Murti temple. Right from the rock cut excavation, the entire temple, a huge complex of this temple, is being added over a period of time, and it saw its pinnacle during the Vijayanagara period in the 16th century and 17th century. Now it's a beautiful temple of Kalgachala Murti of the later Vijayanagara architecture. This is the hillock, and that's a Kalgachala Murti temple, and you have the beautiful pond in front of that. And this is the entrance to the Kalgachala Murti temple. You find the Mail Vahanam inside that. This is the cave, rock cut cave excavation, and inside that you have the Kalgachala Murti seated there. And this is the Kalgachalamurti Mula Vigraha, which you see here. He's seated on the top of a peacock, and you cannot make out unless you see this figure. With 6 arms, Kalgachalamurti is seated on a peacock here. And this temple is today crowded temple with lot of people like our Paini. Lot of people of this region come to this particular temple of Kalgachalamurti. And this is a Kuladevam of many of those people in the southern part of Tamil Nadu. And this is one of the most important and a very famous temple dedicated to Muruga of Tamil Nadu. Kalzhugumalai is one of the greatest heritage sites in our country, which has existed from 8th century onwards. The phenomenal monolithic temple scooped out of the hard granite or the hill on the granite hill or the Jain beds, and the inscriptions belong to the Pandyas and later addition of the Kalgachalamurti temple in 16th century, all are of great importance. And let's visit Kalzhugumalai, enjoy the beauty of this. This is known as the Ellora of South. Let's enjoy this. If you have not paid a visit to this temple, please do go see, admire the beauty of our great, great artisans who have contributed this unfinished temple, but a beautiful monument today. And we have to see once in our life to this wonderful temple of Kalgachalamurti. Thank you. Any questions? I'm prepared to take it.
Guru Sudha here.
Yes.
What was the reason the Jains also built over this unfinished temple? Any particular reason?
No, this